昨天晚上呢，我拒绝了我老公提出的那个方面的要求，我这上了一天的班，真的是又累又困。
Last night, I refused my husband's request for intimacy, simply because I had worked an entire day and was physically and mentally exhausted, so tired I didn't even have the strength to talk. I thought he would understand me, especially since he had the day off today. I didn't expect him to act all moody early in the morning, looking completely upset. After that, he went out alone to have breakfast. Before leaving, he threw down a sentence: "Don't ask me to handle anything in this house from now on. I won't take care of anything. And I'm not handing over my whole salary to you anymore." He said he wanted to keep half of his salary as his own pocket money. As soon as I heard that, I got furious. I thought, what do you mean by that? You want to hide money from me now? Unexpectedly, my husband, still angry, said, "Yeah, I'm a 40-year-old grown man. I should at least keep some money for myself." Hearing that really made me upset. I said back to him, "It's fine if you want to keep a bit of money, but how can you keep half?" I started having doubts in my heart. Are you trying to rebel or what? Is this still the same honest, family-oriented man I married? Just because of something so trivial, something between a husband and wife. Over such a small thing, he's become so petty. I thought, aren't married couples supposed to talk things through when problems arise? So I tried to have a proper conversation with him, to talk it out clearly. But he didn't want to respond to me at all. He went straight into the next room, slammed the door shut with a bang, and even locked it. I stood outside the door, feeling my chest tight with anger, truly frustrated. To this moment, I'm still reflecting on what happened. Was it really worth turning our backs on each other over such a small thing? Life like this feels way too suffocating, too unbearable. To be honest, this wasn't the first or second time I've refused his requests for intimacy, but I've never thought it was a big deal. Between husband and wife, sometimes one is tired or not in the mood. Shouldn't we be understanding toward each other? Is it that every single time, we have to meet the other person's needs while completely ignoring our own feelings? I've never been a fan of frequent intimacy in the first place, and he knows this. But now, just over something like this, he's not only holding a grudge and giving me the cold shoulder, but even using money to threaten me. That really chills my heart. I honestly feel more and more like I don't recognize him anymore. If this is the attitude he's going to have from now on, losing his temper at the drop of a hat and refusing to hand over his salary, then I don't necessarily have to stay in this marriage. If it comes to that, so be it. I can live on my own. Do I really need him just to survive?
各位80后，你们的夫妻生活还如初吗？
Brothers who are already married, is your married life still the same as when you first got married? To be honest, I haven't had any intimacy with my wife for an entire year. From initial indifference to now an almost frozen kind of apathy. Right now our situation is, even when we sleep on the same bed, she finds me a nuisance, and often kicks me out to sleep on the couch. At the beginning, I truly couldn't figure out the reason. I thought maybe I did something wrong, or maybe I said something unintentionally that upset her. I tried to talk to her. I said, "If there's really a problem, just tell me. Let's talk it out. Even if it's my fault, I'll definitely change." But my wife never gave me a direct response. She always brushes it off with excuses like, "I'm too tired from work," or "I'm not in the mood," saying it's not my fault and telling me not to overthink, saying she just wants to rest. But to be honest, I'm already 35 years old, and I really can't buy the tired from work excuse anymore. If you say that for a month or two, fine. But it's been a year and it's still the same excuse. I honestly feel quite irritated inside. Although I don't have a job right now and am indeed unemployed at home, does that give her the right to treat me with such coldness just because of that? We've argued many times about this, but every time after the fight, her attitude is still cold. She doesn't even look me in the eye. Until the 8th of last month, I made her dinner and waited for her to come home from work. Since it's been hot lately, she went straight to take a shower after getting home, and left her phone casually on the living room couch. I didn't have anything else to do at the time, so I picked it up and flipped through it, and accidentally opened WeChat. Then, I saw her chat history with another man. At that moment my mind went boom, like my whole head was about to explode. I don't want to go into too much detail about the contents, for words, utterly disgusting. Stuff like, "Baby, you're the only one in my life. I love you. Every word felt like a needle stabbing my heart. But strangely, I didn't confront her on the spot. I just quietly put down the phone and pretended I hadn't seen anything. Suddenly, it felt like nothing had happened at all. I felt an unusual sense of calm inside. Because right beside me I saw my daughter, Lele, 6 years old, such a well-behaved and sensible girl. At that moment, her presence was like a beam of light piercing my frozen heart, instantly calming me down. I know there's a high chance my wife is cheating. But I also know that my daughter needs her mother, and needs a complete family. Lately, I've been constantly reflecting on this matter. My mental state is really bad. Every time I pick up my phone, those chat messages flash through my mind. But now, over a month has passed and I've gradually figured it out. Whether she's cheating or not, whether she's unfaithful or not, what does seeing those chat logs really change? Maybe they're just joking around. As long as I don't catch them in a physical act with my own eyes, I can still endure. Sometimes, people just don't want to confront pain head-on. In the days to come, I just want to focus on raising my child and earning more money. Let my daughter have a better life, and let my parents enjoy their later years in peace. Too many suspicions, too much truth, it'll only leave a person covered in wounds. Anyway, I no longer expect any intimacy with my wife. If she really doesn't want me to touch her, as long as she doesn't ask for a divorce, I'll just treat it as living together for convenience. Brothers, do you think what I'm doing is right? If this happened to you, what would you do?
你知道不让老公碰的女人会有什么后果吗？
Do you know what kind of consequences a woman might face if she consistently refuses intimacy with her husband? I have a friend who, after a huge argument with her husband, started to reject all forms of physical intimacy. When her husband tried to hug her in the morning after waking up, she would immediately turn away and coldly say, "Don't touch me, I'm busy." At night, when they were going to sleep, the moment her husband moved closer, she would quickly scoot to the edge of the bed, wrap herself tightly in the blanket, and turn her back to him, leaving him with a clear signal of complete rejection. Her husband tried to communicate many times, bringing up their sex life, but every time he was mercilessly turned down. Eventually, he simply moved into the study and started sleeping alone. On the surface, it might look like he was sulking, trying to vent his frustration about being denied intimacy, but in reality, the hidden danger here is extremely serious. You have to understand, physical intimacy between husband and wife is actually the most basic and also the most effective way to maintain a relationship. If the wife keeps refusing for a long time, it not only hurts the husband's self-esteem, but also makes him feel rejected and invalidated. Gradually, he'll start to question himself, am I not good enough? Does she not want to stay in this marriage anymore? His heart will begin to grow cold, and he'll become increasingly disappointed in the relationship. Once this kind of negative emotion builds up to a certain point, he might start avoiding home, escaping family life, or even seek other ways to satisfy his physical needs. And that kind of other way often marks the beginning of cracks in the marriage. In fact, many fights between couples are just minor emotional clashes. If they're addressed through timely communication and mutual understanding, they can absolutely be repaired. But if you let that small rift grow, it will eventually become an irreparable divide. And once another woman takes advantage of that gap, the marriage becomes truly endangered. By that point, trying to drive out the woman who has stepped into your marriage will become a physically and emotionally draining tug-of-war. Sisters, you must understand, whether a marriage is happy or not, sex life plays a decisive role. When a man gives signals that he wants to be intimate with you, and you respond positively, he will not only feel happy and excited, but his whole attitude will become more gentle and attentive. Many of the requests you make, he'll be more than willing to fulfill. As the saying goes, quarrels at the bedhead are reconciled at the bed's end. Many conflicts that seem impossible to resolve can often be quietly dissolved through a tender moment of physical connection. As long as both of you want to stay in this marriage, it's truly hard not to be happy. So I want to remind everyone, never use the refusal of intimacy as a form of punishment when there's conflict between spouses. You might feel, I've been wronged, so he doesn't deserve peace either, but from a man's point of view, this kind of behavior is as cruel as starving him of his daily meals. If you act cold toward him once or twice, he might still understand, but a long-term cold war will only destroy the relationship. Don't expect that starving him for a few meals will force an apology or a compromise. That kind of thinking is unrealistic. Even if your husband is honest and won't mess around outside, it doesn't mean other women won't try to approach him. So, quarrels between couples are very normal. The key is to use the right methods to manage your marriage. A smart woman uses wisdom to repair the relationship, not the wrong tactics to accelerate its collapse.
多夫妻都有过这样的情况呀，就是在夜深人静的时候，本来都要睡觉了。
Don't you think many couples have experienced this kind of situation? Late at night, when everything is quiet and they're just about to fall asleep, the atmosphere is peaceful, until the husband suddenly feels a desire for intimacy. He quietly moves closer to his wife, hoping for some affectionate interaction. But at that moment, the wife may not be in the mood, or she might still be holding on to some lingering emotions. The moment she senses her husband approaching, she immediately pulls away, looking displeased. Yet the husband doesn't give up. He gently leans in again, trying to salvage the mood. That's when the wife reacts even more strongly, snapping irritably and shouting, "Get away!" Startled by this sudden burst of emotion, the husband immediately stops what he's doing, not daring to say another word. But even so, after a short while, he can't help himself and tries to approach her again. This time, the wife becomes truly angry. She might suddenly sit up or even jump out of bed, her face full of frustration. At that point, the husband immediately backs down, like a child who's done something wrong, not even daring to breathe too loudly. Only after the wife sees that her husband has finally quieted down does she slowly lie back down, ready to go back to sleep. But just as she peacefully closes her eyes, the husband's hand quietly reaches over again. This time, the wife directly swats his hand away, her attitude firm and cold. At that moment, the husband feels deeply aggrieved. He's thinking to himself, "All I wanted was to get a little closer to my own wife. Why is that so difficult?" And the wife may not even understand how her husband feels, constantly rejecting him without hesitation. Day after day, as this cycle repeats itself again and again, the husband gradually loses interest in their marital intimacy. He stops initiating, stops getting close, even stops expressing himself. This relationship slowly shifts from closeness to indifference, eventually turning them into the most familiar yet most distant strangers under the same roof. Don't you think? This feels like the real situation for so many couples?
Do you know what happens when a woman keeps rejecting her husband's desire for intimacy? It's really heartbreaking and also very realistic. When a man wants to be close to you and you don't satisfy him, he becomes very unhappy, speaks with impatience, and might even get angry and give you the cold shoulder. If a wife satisfies her husband's intimate needs, he becomes very happy and talks to you in a cheerful and gentle tone. But if you remain cold to him, over time, if a man is constantly left unsatisfied, he will start to hate you and gradually won't even want to talk to you anymore. He'll treat you like a stranger, cold as ice, emotionless, and his heart will drift farther and farther away from you. Even when he earns money, he won't want to give it to you anymore. He won't even want to see you. If this continues for too long, he'll eventually go find someone else, someone who can offer him emotional comfort and warmth. He'll give his money, his love, and his tenderness to that person. By then, getting him to come back will be anything but easy. So I sincerely want to say this to every wife out there. No matter how unwilling you are, no matter how wrong you feel, no matter how serious the conflict between you is, if you still don't want to lose him, please remember this. Never use physical rejection as a punishment for your husband. Take good care of your husband, be thoughtful, and make sure he feels fully satisfied. When that happens, he will treat you with utmost care, dote on you endlessly, and willingly spend money on you. No matter how attractive other women are out there, you won't even want to look at them. Got it? Do you agree with my point of view? Feel free to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.